Hello everyone and welcome back to Creative Redundancy's channel. And then now in this live stream I'm gonna be discussing about fire. With general information about fire and talking about flame spark and heat methods. A couple of different fire lays, stuff like that. Now this won't be a restricted video unlike some of my other fire videos, because I'm generally just gonna be talking about it. I'm not demoing it at all on this live stream. So let's roll in with some open my opener. Hello everyone, welcome back. Thanks for dropping in on my live stream and taking the time to check out my content. Always appreciated. So just want to say peace, and thanks to everyone that's been supporting my channel recently, and for anyone that's been around with me for the last year, 2 years, give or take. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate the support, the comments, the views, and having you guys as subscribers. Because without you guys, well, CR is just a guy that just creates, but with you guys, I get an audience. So I'm just gonna load up the chat here so I can see what's going on. What's up, Dean? How's it going? Hopefully everything's okay with you, man. I'll kind of just wait a moment, about a minute or so, see if anyone wants to jump in live with me. Maybe ask some questions, get a discussion going. Like I said, I'm gonna be talking about fire in this video. So you guys are gonna see lighters, flame sources, spark sources. I'll give it another like 20 seconds before I kind of start what I want to talk about. So, fire. Fire is one of those things back, since the beginning of human history, we've relied on it. It's a very useful type of thing, especially if you can create it. Now, history kind of, and historians kind of think that the way that we learned fire was seeing nature do it. So we might have saw it from like lightning bolts hitting trees or whatever and seeing it combust and, well, start a fire. And we would grab that and kind of work with it, try to understand it. Then later on, as things developed and stuff like that, we learned about friction fire, so hand drill and stuff like that. And that kind of continued on and on until stuff like flint and steel all the way, excuse me, all the way down to modern times with matches, lighters, a ferro rod. Now, in between there was um, back in like hundreds to 1,000 years ago, solar's been around since that time. I mean, um, back before Roman times, I believe, with Archimedes, he learned about and showed how you can reflect light and focus and concentrate it to make heat, which in turn can cause smoke, which in turn can cause a fire. All the way down to, I think it's the 15th century, with learning about spy glasses and magnification glasses or magnifying glasses. And, it basically continued on until right now. Excuse me. So, fire. I mean, everyone knows about this fire triangle where you need fuel, heat, and oxygen. And if you take attack any one or remove any part of that triangle, the fire or the flames, they just go out. It might still smolder, but so basically something like water attacks the fire triangle's heat, and something like a fire extinguisher attacks the oxygen side by blasting the fire with carbon dioxide or something like similar to that. And in terms of like when people fight forest fires, they actually burn stuff ahead in advance, so the main part of the fire doesn't have the fuel source, the tinder, to kind of grow or expand out. Now, it's very well known that fire does a lot for people throughout history. Like, in terms of survival, it helps you signal because it gives off light, keeps you warm, especially if it's cold out, winter, rain, stuff like that. You can boil your water so it's safer to drink. So basically, it would kill the biological, organisms inside of it, bacteria, viruses, and stuff like that, protozoa and stuff like that. So it's safe to drink. And of course, it cooks your food, cooking like fish, uh, whatever's hunted. Um, you can make a smoker with fire to smoke your meat to kind of preserve it by smoking it. So you can keep it with you, but it can be exposed to the air and it's not gonna rot or anything, or go spoil or go bad anytime soon. Now, fire has also given us humans the ability to manipulate metals, all the way from the Copper and Bronze Age down to the Iron Age, and all the way up to modern times with steel and the Industrial Revolution, where basically metals changed the course of history, being able to extract using fire to extract like metals out, like copper, mixing it with tin to make bronze, melting iron out of uh, iron ore to create iron, which later merged with like carbon from like charcoal to make steel. So yeah, fire's been very important in the course of human history. Now, fire is basically a chemical reaction that reacts with oxygen, and that's how you get flames. And oxygen rushes in, the air rushes in, and it starts to smolder from turning into an amber to, a full-fledged fire with flames and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, fire's been one of those things. If we didn't have it, you know, well, let's just say things would be a lot different. That's for sure. A lot of us we rely on fire in terms of like even electricity. I mean, stuff like uh, coal burning plants and stuff like that, or natural gas. That stuff's burned to heat up water to generate steam to turn turbines. So even in everyday kind of, in the regular everyday world, everyone's using fire. If you're using electricity, especially if it's on the grid. Now it's a little bit different if it's, wind, hydro, or solar. Slightly different, but you're still getting electricity from that. Yeah, you're exactly right, Dean. Fire also keeps you warm. Usually used in conjunction with shelter to keep you warm, especially in a survival type of situation. Making fire can boost your morale slightly, and also can detour certain animals or insects like mosquitoes, especially used in conjunction with like smoke and stuff like that. Smoke will drive insects away. So during the hot months of like summer or whatever, if there's a bunch of mosquitoes, a fire can help you, especially if there's some smoke kind of drifting around. Uh, Bugs and mosquitoes will tend to avoid that, and they'll kind of stay on the outside, away from the smoke and the fire itself, obviously. Hey, Danny Shrump, what's up? How's it going? How are you? Yeah, I'm just talking about fire in this video. Kind of some back history on how fires really changed the course of human history and how it helps you in survival type of situations. Like, depending on the situation, if you can make fire, your chances of being rescued, staying alive long enough to be rescued, or self-rescuing, you know, it just increases your chances of getting out of that sticky situation, uh, you know, much more than if you didn't have it. Like you might be able to get out without fire, but if you have fire, somehow, your chances just greatly increase. Well, that's why I wanted to talk about the fire, because during the winter time, I mean, keeping warm is important. So, for some reason, the grid goes down if you don't have access to that uh, natural gas and stuff like that. Well, and electricity. That's mostly made from like burning coal. Without that, I mean, your place is not start cooling down. Things are gonna get cold. You're just gonna start to get really cold. Because as humans, we're warm-blooded. We like to be in this kind of temperature range. If it goes below that, we start getting cold. If it gets too far above it, we start getting too hot. I don't know about that, Dean. Not sure. Not sure. I haven't noticed anything like that. Oh, looks like I got a couple more people jumping in. That's cool. That's cool. Welcome to anyone who's dropping by right now. Feel free to leave a comment on the side chat right now. Ask any questions. You know, especially if you want to talk about fire. Yes, I'm talking about fire. Yeah, exactly. I mean, having a place that you can, call home that has a fireplace, you know, it's can be very useful, especially in a grid down type of situation, especially in the winter time, where the temperature plummets way below freezing. Being able to stay warm can, you know, definitely help. So even if you don't have like something like a fireplace inside, there's other ways of going about it. You might have to make a fire outside, for example, let's say with uh, a Mr. Heater, so you can gain some warmth. Maybe you're using like a barbecue to cook or boil some water, stuff like that. For most people, I mean, their contact with fire is kind of limiting or limited. They might be using like a lighter, for example, like this lighter right here, or using their barbecue or something like that. That's usually the closest that most people get in contact with fire. Just reading the side chat right here. Don't mind me. Oh, okay, okay. Just had to read the side chat what you guys are typing before I lose my train of thought here. So yeah, fire. It's one of those things that really, changed the course of history. Really, fire is one of those things that we kind of, as humans, we kind of learned how to harness that, well, heat, chemical energy, and it helps us do stuff from making electricity to forging metals to make weapons, containers. A lot of the stuff you might see in front of you right now has had some form of fire related to it, like even the spoon. It might not have been forged by like a blacksmith, but nowadays, but with machines, but that metal had to melt, and for the most part, we had to use fire to melt metals. and it gets, that kind of raw, kind of metal out from the ore. So we had to learn about that stuff in terms of like forging, maybe making well, what it's called nowadays, a blast furnace. But basically back then, it would be uphill and a draft would come up, and then later on we learned how to use the bellows to push air in. Because if you add more oxygen in terms of air into your fire gets hotter. Just reading the side chat real quick. Oh, that's cool. That's cool, Danny. That's cool. I bet that stuff helps, keep you warm at night or during the day if you need it. Especially if the temperature's way below freezing outside. So yeah, what I was talking about just a few minutes ago was, so if you add more oxygen in your fire, or the heat increases because there's more, well, oxygen for it to kind of use up and help it release that kind of heat or energy, especially if the fuel supply is there. Hey Reaper, Militia, Sidetracked, what's up? Thanks for dropping by, man. I'm just talking about fire tonight. Especially since not the last live stream, but a couple live streams ago, I was talking about the cold and winter, so I figured, I might as well talk about warmth and fire and, well, all the stuff that fire can do for us. It can do a lot of things. It can do, you know, like I just said moments ago, it helps us stay warm, maybe drive off certain animals or insects, especially if using conjunction with smoke. Um, can help you signal because of the light it gives off, especially if you make 3 separate fires, and usually 3 of anything's usually the common or the universal distress kind of, oh hey, I need help, I need some assistance, to boiling water to making it safe to drink, killing off the viruses, the bacteria and stuff like that, especially if you pre-filter it and all that stuff. And it cooks your food like fish, or if you smoke it, you can smoke fish or meats to preserve it so it lasts a little bit longer. Yeah, fire is awesome. Now, as a side note, remember, as much as fire can help us, remember, there's times where it is dangerous, and we should all remember that. Now, something I learned, a teacher kind of told me back when I was in school, is if fire had like cells, like in like as like an organism or like plants or animals, we would consider it alive because it reproduces, it grows, it dies out, and stuff like that. Yep, yep, you can do that too. You can definitely do that too, Reaper. You can definitely do that too. I mean, I was kind of talking about it a couple live streams ago about using transferring that heat energy from fire into water to keep you warm in terms of like a hot water heater. I've done that a few times, it's useful, it helps, especially when you're outside for quite a bit of time and stuff like that. Okay, Reaper, that's new to me. I've never really heard about that, but you know, I'm game for discovering or learning something new or interesting. Cool, cool. Just give me 1 second. Just checking on something real quick here. Just checking on the temperature. Yep, still cold outside. It's actually minus 35 in the wind right now, so probably about minus 30 Fahrenheit. That's in the wind. Slightly warmer if you get at the wind. So, you guys might be well aware that I always usually talk about fire in terms of like a fire kit, for example. I usually say that if you're gonna have like some sort of fire kit, depending, you know, if you're more into bushcrafting, you might have a little less. Uh, if it's for a certain type of bag, like a bug out bag, or maybe a get home bag, or an everyday carry type of bag, it might vary. But I tend to think of a fire kit as five main things: the fire starters themselves, so a flame source, such as a lighter, matches, strike anywhere matches, stormproof, or lifeboat type of matches, or maybe what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. The thing that looks like you light it on the side and it creates a flame. Anyways, I forget what it's called right now, but hopefully someone will remind me. And so a flame source, spark sources like flint and steel, your ferro rod, maybe a dead lighter. A lighter is kind of a flame and spark source. Air spark sources could be like electric spark like from a battery if you're trying to get a fire going with like gasoline in survival type of situations. Yeah, like I wouldn't recommend doing that day to day or every every time you make a fire. But if you need to make that fire for whatever reason to keep warm in the winter, or you're stuck on the side of the road and your car engine's not working well, you gotta do what you gotta do. And then heat sources, which basically covers the rest. So solar, friction fires, bow drill, hand drill, and all the rest of the friction fire methods, which still trying to, make progress and doing. I've been practicing. Haven't, quite got it down yet, but I'm hoping to, you know, get better at it, get more proficient at it. Another heat sources would be something like exothermic type of reactions, like potassium permanganate with glycerol or something like that. So basically, it's two chemicals that come together that release heat because the reaction releases heat. And for the most part, fire is an exothermic type of reaction that releases heat. And we usually see it as flames. and light. Now the fourth thing would be having tinder. So either if it's brought in or you find it in the woods or nearby wherever you are. So, well, this pretty much includes a lot of natural materials such as birch bark, fat wood, right? Fat wood, very popular, also known as lighter knot. It's, and has some other words associated with it. And yes, how can anyone not like fat wood? Yeah. Then there's kind of more man-made type of things like, let's say, con balls, dryer lint, maybe paper, for example. And the last thing, number 5, would be tinder making tools, such as your knife, like this one that I have right here, so you can make feather sticks or fuzz sticks, increase the surface area so there's more, well, more air can get into it. So if it's starting to burn, it'll kind of, there's more surface area for it to absorb or take in oxygen. And this also includes stuff like a pencil sharpener, normal type of pencil sharpeners to like a carpenter uh, type of pencil sharpener. So you twist it, make shavings, same thing, increase surface area. Those are the 5 things I consider when I'm making a fire kit. Anything else is just pretty much associated with those 5 things or kind of extra. Like a bellows or whatever would be kind of extra, but a bellows allows you to push more air into it, more oxygen into it, so it kind of can get it going or make it burn hotter, especially if you're trying to blow coals into, well, into flame. Oh wow, you guys wrote so much in there. Let me just read what you guys are writing here. Yeah, I just want to mention what Danny was just writing here. He wrote, I've been in the cold where I had no heater, so I had hot water put into a Dr. Pepper bottle and sleep with it to keep me warm. Had to do that once an hour under blankets, but 2 20-ounce bottles will help about an hour. Yeah, I mean, like I said a little bit earlier, I've done that before. I remember this one time, just kind of to relate to you, Danny, there, that I was over at my friend's place. For some reason, their heater wasn't working. I don't know why, for whatever reason. Now, what we did was, they still have access to electricity, so what we did, because it was like minus 20 Celsius out, so whatever that is in Fahrenheit, minus 11 Fahrenheit, give or take, whatever the conversion is. But basically, we still had, well, they still had access to electricity, so we had the oven running, I had the stove running, blowing up some water. They had 2-liter bottles hanging around, so I made a couple hot water heaters for everyone. There was like 5 people, including myself. A couple kids too, right? So we had to use a couple of those. It did help, especially if you keep the area you're trying to warm up small, because smaller areas tend to warm or cool down. Well, they tend to be easier to warm up or heat up, which I kind of mentioned in the cold/winter time live stream that I did earlier. Oh, what's that? Yeah, I'm trying to remember that Reapers reminded me of that bear, the fire safety bear, if I'm right, right? Yes, fire is something you need to practice. Try to learn various techniques. I mean, it's nice if you have to use a flame or spark method, yeah. But maybe try out some other methods, solar, the friction fire methods. There's a lot of friction fire methods. I mean, there's bow drill, hand drill. I think it's called fire plow. Uh, there's that fire piston, and I think there's the fire roll, which basically two flat pieces material. Usually you have cotton inside with a little bit of ash or something to kind of give it a little bit more friction, and you just rub it back and forth, applying pressure. And then when you know, take your board off, you'll open up that con a little, and it'll start to smoke a little, and then blow it into flame. So yeah, fire is important. So leave me a comment on the side chat here. You know, what do you guys usually use for fire? Whatever it is, flame, spark, a heat method. What kind of tinder? Corn balls, dryer lint, jute line, cattail, birch bark. Maybe you're really into fatwood. I know a lot of the channels are into fatwood. I mean, fatwood's awesome, and it naturally grows. But the thing is, you gotta kind of, for the most part, wait for the tree to kind of die. Unfortunately, to harvest the fatwood. I mean, you can harvest like little limbs on the side or notch from branches and stuff, but for the most part, you're not gonna be harvesting fatwood from a dead tree. Oh wow, Danny. Yeah, that'd be kind of, roughing it. You know, definitely no walk in the park. That's for sure. Well, okay, Reaper. Let's say winter, summer, winter, summer, just 2 months. When it's cold or when it's warmer out. Let's just say. Mm-hmm. I've been practicing a lot. I mean, even trying to see, you know, how much does it take for something to go up. I mean, let's see. Of course, now I don't have my lighter. It's sitting behind me. Hold on a sec. Let me go grab it here real quick. Like lately, I've been practicing with just dead sparks from a lighter. Oops. So here's a dead lighter. Clearly, no gas, no nothing. Just working with just sparks from that, seeing what works and stuff like that. Because clearly, if you can get a fire going with these kind of sparks, a ferro rod should be a walk in the park. A ferro rod's definitely not way hotter sparks than any dead lighter would or any flint and steel would. I mean, a dead lighter like this can even get fat wood going, but you gotta kind of make it into like kind of shavings to Maya dust to get it going. I mean, of course, a dead lighter can get con balls going, con pads going, as long as you fluff it up. Jute twine if you fluff it up, drylint if you fluff it up, cattail too, but cattail kind of is a flash tinder. You'll get a flame, but it's very, 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 very fast. So you need something in addition to that, like feather sticks, birch bark, stuff like that. Oh yeah, there's there's so many videos on YouTube about homemade fire starters, and then there's a whole bunch of other videos about commercial made fire starters. You know, every fire starter has its pros and cons. Some are more commercial stuff may be more expensive, but may work better. The DIY homemade stuff is cheaper, but may not quite work as great in certain situations. Hey, Texas Star. Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Cool, cool. Just reading what you guys are writing here. Alright, thanks Danny. Thanks for dropping by. Stay warm. Stay under the covers. You know, maybe those hot water heaters might come in handy tonight for you. Or you could wear some extra clothes to bed, I guess. So, let me ask, any of you guys tried out, friction fire? Or, some that are heat methods like solar or friction fire methods? I know I've shown off a whole lot of solar ignition. I mean, I think I was one of the few channels out there that shows solar ignition while it was actually raining. I'll probably put that in as an end card, or uh, put it in the description down below on that video. And that was the first time I actually made, well, fire in the rain with solar ignition. If you guys haven't seen that video, it was very interesting to do. A little bit more, definitely way more challenging than just doing solar ignition on a clear day. So, let's see. I need to gather up some more birch bark. I have some on the side right here, actually. Let's see. Let me, in this green pouch right here. Then it also has a green lanyard. I got a little bit of birch bark. I need to grab some more. I also got some that's sealed up. Oh yeah, me too, Texas Holster. I mean, I've tried it. I've gotten smoke from it, but until you kind of can get a coal going, that after you kind of remove the bow drill or whatever, it's got to be still smoldering and smoking. Then you put that into your bird's nest and blow it into flame. So I'm not quite there yet. I'm halfway there, so I am making progress in it. I mean, I had to use a skateboard wheel as a bearing block on the top. I think I used some paracord and some other stuff. So it's not quite, only with natural materials, but of course I'm learning about it first. I'm hoping one of these days I'll get it. Or I'll be like, hey guys, I got the friction fire going now. So maybe after the bow drill, maybe I'll try the hand drill or the kind of uh, friction saw or that fire roll kind of method. Excuse me. So down on the side chat right here, like I said, leave me what kind of tinder you like to use, man-made or natural. For me, it's if it's man-made kind of tinder, it's probably gonna be Dryland or Con. I mean, Con's way up there for like as a tinder because it takes a spark easily and stuff like that. Dryland, wow, it's not created equal, let's just say, and it varies depending on what's been going through the dryer. So it may still have some synthetic materials inside, like polyester and stuff, because not everyone uses puts jeans and cotton t-shirts in their dryer. Sometimes it's acrylic or polyester. In terms of natural materials, for me, it would probably be maybe cattail, maybe fat wood. Like in addition to like any fair sticks I make from you know the sticks that are available. I was just waiting for that. I knew someone would eventually mention the famous DIY Vaseline cotton balls, petroleum jelly cotton balls. Yeah, and they're very easy to make. I've I've done it before. I've used them. I know they work. I've been going away from it a little bit. I have another fire starter that I've been working on that's a little bit different, a little bit less messy. It may cost a little less than Vaseline and Vaseline and cotton fire starters, but it depends, I guess, because there's a lot of a lot of things can burn. I mean, when people talk about like, for example, like a pencil or whatever, I'm not big on having pencils, just because, well, if you have fire, you can make a pencil. You can burn the like this right here. I can burn the tip and start and make a pencil out of it, which I've shown you can do it in the sun too with solar ignition. Yeah, I know a pencil burns, but pretty much anything can burn on the ground, aside from metals, because metals definitely need a lot more heat before they start melting. But anything like plastics will burn if you need it. Although I wouldn't do it all the time. Uh, Ranger bands burn, we all know that, but it'll create dark black smoke. So you don't want to be breathing that in. But Ranger bands are waterproof, and if it's ever soaked, this a Ranger band like this might give you that flame that you need. Yeah, I made a few homemade candle wicks before in my time. I'm actually working on a different kind of wick that's more natural. I'll be releasing that video later on. It's not that hard to make. Certain parts of the world, it'll be easy for someone to make it if they want to. Other parts of the world, maybe not so easy. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I I remember showing off matches, modified matches, which basically had a kind of cotton wick around it. So let's see. I'll just use this stick for example. If this was a match, basically the match head would be at the top, and basically I had cotton twine wrapped around it that was dipped in wax. Easy. Gives you extended burn time. I can wrap it around the stick, so I could wrap it around another stick, so I can wrap that match around another stick and go from there. Or wrap it around like some better sticks that I have or whatever. Some of the strike anywhere ones I have can burn from like 4 to 5 minutes with very minimal bulk, so you can still get quite a bit in a container or in a tin or in a kit. Hello D-Lo Flow. I think this time I got it right. I got it right. I hope I got that right. I was trying to remember it from the last live stream, where you kind of spelled it phonetically for me. And welcome. Thanks for dropping by. So, I don't know how long you've been listening D-Lo Flow, but I'm just talking about fire tonight. From pretty much everything about fire. How it helps us. It can be destructive. Keeps us warm. Boils our water. Cooks our food. Smokes our food. Helps us signal if need be. Drives insects away like mosquitoes. Helps us make stuff in terms of like forging metals, like iron and carbon into steel, or back in the ancient times, copper and tin into bronze. So I'm gonna leave another question for you guys. What do you guys think about matches? Let's say paper matches, normal type of matches, strike anywhere matches, stormproof or lifeboat matches. I'll let you guys talk about. Leave your comments before I get into that. Yeah, I've used hemp before. My friend had it. He was showing it to me. I was trying it out. Like I said, I have another natural type of wick. It's with its own characteristics, slightly different from like hemp cord, but virtually anyone can make, as long as you have the resources to, make it. Oh, that's cool. That's cool that you learned how to start a fire, and cook eggs via, well, camping or a campsite or whatever. A lot of people, that's kind of how they learn. Just reading what you guys wrote and checking on the temperature again. At least the wind's dying down a little. Only feels like minus 34 now. Ooh, it's 1 degree warmer in the wind. Well, yeah, matches tend to have that kind of sulfur type of smell to it. You know, roughly similar to like raw eggs, but it's very quick. It's not very strong of a smell. Okay, okay, I think I got what you just said, D'Lo. Because I'm trying to understand it. Friction fire is one of the hardest things to master. I mean, in terms of human history, it's probably one of the first things we had to learn. But as the course of history went on, there our technology became available, so fire became a little bit easier from flint and steel, which is basically a piece of flint with a piece of high carbon steel, all the way down to modern times, matches, lighters, stuff like that. And solar's kind of been more last like 1,000 years, but definitely friction fire has been existed way before that. I know some people dislike matches. I mean, they got their place in terms of like a flame method for fire starting. Sometimes matches are can be better than a lighter. Now, matches might be single use, but the thing about matches are they're not vulnerable to the cold. Something like a lighter, Zippo, maybe a Clipper lighter, dollar store lighter. Those are vulnerable to the cold. You gotta keep them warm. You gotta kind of keep them by your body, kind of keep them above freezing, because they tend not to work so well when they're cold. Because basically you won't get a flame, or you'll get a very small inky dinky flame. So during the winter, I might use matches. Not a lot, because I most of the time I have a lighter, like in my shirt or in my underneath my hat or my toque, for example, just to keep it warm. I have the matches just in case my lighter's too cold. You know, I I need an open flame. Don't have like a ferro rod with me or something like that. So something like matches would be useful in situations like that. Although I tend to make my matches in a modified version, and I tend to use them as a fire starter themselves. So, you know, if it's a striking armor match, I modified it so it burns longer. So it's not just a flame source, but it's kind of more of a fire starter than just a fire starting method, if that makes sense. Hello, Valerie. Welcome to my live stream. Thanks for dropping by. Hopefully things are going well with you. So yeah, Val, I've just been talking about fire. Everything from what it does for us to, matches, lighters, waves for our heat, tinder, tinder making tools. Like I said, fire can do so much for us. Like for me, I consider fire if if fire was on like one side of a quarter, solar would be on the other side. There's a lot of the things that fire can do, I can do with like solar ignition. And there's a lot of things that solar ignition can do that I might be able to do with fire, but it's a little bit harder. And there's lots of videos that I've shown up that about solar ignition, so you guys could go check it out. From engraving with solar ignition to using solar ignition as, a cutting tool. So basically, like burning something away, to get the desired shape or effect. You know what? Sure, why not? Why not? Uh, oh, I was wondering what it was. It's like at the bottom. I have to scroll down a little bit. All right, there we go. There you go, man. You know what? Let's see. Let's kind of add a few more in. A couple more moderators when heard, I guess. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, D-Lofo, for saying that your videos are awesome. Greatly appreciate it. So much so that I'm gonna thumbs that up right now. So yeah, I use it all for fire. I embrace it all. Learn some of these kind of, lack of a better word, these hacks that you can do with fire. I mean, for example, like steel wool. A battery in steel wool can work, although you don't necessarily need a battery to get steel wool going, because you should be able to get it going with like a ferrite, the sparks from a ferrite or an open flame source. Because I know there's videos out there about fire kits, and I see like I see the steel wool, which is cool, right? Steel wool's for a bot kind of commercially available kind of tinder that you can buy readily at different places. You know, it's water. As far as I know, it's fairly waterproof, or else, or you can just kind of shake the water off. It may work with a battery, but like I said, it also works with sparks, hot sparks, and a flame source too. So if you like to have steel wool and a battery, I mean, I know it's simple, but for the space of a 9-volt battery, you could have a lighter, for example, like a mini big, and it a mini big will, for me, I would consider a mini big more useful than a 9-volt battery, especially in terms of fire. I mean, a 9-volt battery you might be able to get a few times before it discharges all the way, but a mini big, you know, it'll just go longer for you and it weighs less. I was actually kind of hoping my Australian subscriber would come in, but she hasn't dropped in yet, even though I said that I was doing a live stream. And Val knows what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna say that. I'm still been waiting for her to drop in onto one of my live streams here, but I guess it is what it is. Yeah, exactly, Val. Val knows what I'm talking about. No names, but anyone that knows me knows who I'm talking about, so enough said. So, so let me ask you guys out in on the side chat right here. The last time you guys made a fire, you know, what did you use to start it? What kind of tinder? Kind of how long did it take? And was it for like, were you actually doing something with it? Like keeping warm, maybe driving mosquitoes away, cooking, boiling water, or cooking food? For me, well, actually, I made a fire yeah, last night. Oh yeah, it's after midnight. So yeah, last night, which is like, oh, 4 hours ago. I think, I just used some common materials. I was just practicing again. Oh yeah, it was with a dead lighter, like this one right here, and some toilet paper, and I think I had some feather sticks that I feathered and stuff like that, because I kind of had to clear off some snow outside, so I just kind of lit one after doing that, just to warm back up my hands, so I can get the feeling back in my hands. Hey Dean, what's up? Thanks for dropping back in again. Welcome back. Yeah, speak of newspaper, that reminds me. Right here, here's a paper firewall that I made a couple weeks back, which is basically you. It takes a little bit of time to make these paper firewalks, but the thing is, you can make a lot of it. And of course, you can use just any normal newspaper that's not glossy or wax, because that does not work. But basically, what you do is you wet it and you roll it up really tight. And you can use something like cordage to kind of twist it tighter. Now, you have to wait for this to kind of dry out. It takes some time, from days to a week to dry out, depending how big it is. The bigger it is, the longer it'll take to dry out. The smaller it is, it'll dry out over a vent in your place or house or apartment or whatever, relatively quickly. But you gotta make sure the core in the center is dry. Like when you touch it, it should feel warm. Which also applies to tinder too. When you're trying to pick out tinder, when you touch it with your bare hand or your face, it should feel warm. Because if it feels cool, you're feeling the moisture, which means that it's not totally dry, so it might not take off right away. Or you have to work at it, or you're not getting a lot of smoke initially, which means you gotta blow it, trying to get some more oxygen in there so it heats up faster. Yeah, Dean, I have a video on that. I'll try to remember to add it as an end screen. I kind of mentioned it a little bit a couple of live streams ago. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this one. Like, you can burn them on their own, but if you add some sort of accelerant or whatever, it's burn hotter and longer, and the heat output's gonna be well, more. So if you guys are wondering, off to the side here, like right to the side here, I have, which hopefully I'll show later on in a different video, what I call my fire chest. Basically, it's a bunch of, fire starters, fire starting supplies, candles, wicks, Well, the fat wood's on the outside, but stuff like jute twine, drywood, standard con. There's a little tip of Vaseline behind it. Fat wood shavings. I think I got some zip fire starters that were donated from a friend. Spare kind of magnification reflectors or lenses for solar ignition. Char cloth or char punkwood. Speak of char cloth or char punkwood, if anyone doesn't know what really that is, that's basically material that's 100% natural. Usually it's cotton, but from like a t-shirt or denim like jeans. And you can also do it with punkwood. But basically what happens is you put it into a sealed area, usually like tin, like something like this. Make a small hole so the gases or the smoke can escape a little. But basically what happens is that it turns into a coal after, and basically everything else gets removed or burnt away or escapes from with the smoke, and basically what you're left over is like, well, a piece of coal. So it looks black. I think I have an example right here. You guys want to see some char cloth here? Oh yeah, I got. Since I actually do carry some, I EDC a little bit of it. But you can see right here. Here's a piece of char cloth right here. Char cloth or char punkwood tends to have a low ignition point, so sparks from flint and steel, dead lighter, open flame source, hot sparks from like a ferro rod, or heat sources like from solar ignition can make it start glowing, and the amber will start transmitting through it. That's why something like con or punkwood works quite well, because it transmits that amber well from the top of it down to the bottom. And of course, you use that in conjunction with a bird's nest or a tinder bundle and blow it into flame. Just give me a sec, just trying to put my tin back here. Let's see what you guys are writing here. Dean, you're talking about the fire logs, right? The paper fire logs, right? If I'm correct. Oh, that's really cool, Dilofo. That's awesome, man. I remember my, very similar back when I was in long time ago. A big, well, it was school related kind of trip. I hope they still do that at that school though. But basically, it was a weekend out, you know, just, every, as students, some of the teachers, in a local, in a campground, we stay in cabins, there was a big fire area. I mean, it was enjoyable, quite fun. I had my rechargeable flashlight at that time, which was quite cool at that time. Having a rechargeable flashlight. I still remember that. It was one of those that I just put into the outlet because there was kind of on grid power still, so we had outlets, so that's what I brought. So I didn't even have to bring batteries. But this is back when before LED technology was out there, so it's one of the older style bulbs. So it wasn't as bright, but it's still useful enough to get around in the dark. Yes, I did, Dean. I have a video on that. It's a couple. Well, it's in mm, well, it's in my video list. It's not that far back. Uh, which one do you mean, Flow? I'm not, because you just said, is it in your Firestarter playlist? Well, my Firestarter playlist has a lot of videos, so I'm not quite sure which one you're talking about, as I've been, talking for a little bit, so, if you guys want to be a little bit more specific, just so I know, so we're on the same page. Oh yeah, that's cool. Then you're gonna make a bunch of paper firewalks on Dean. I mean, if you have access to the paper, I mean, granted, you probably should be getting like actual wood per se, but nothing wrong with making a couple extra paper firewalks. It just takes more time to kind of make a bunch. Like, you gotta make them in advance. I mean, if you were to make a paper firewall, depending how big it is, will determine how long it takes to dry. You set over a vent near a fire, near a stove. Not too close, right? You don't want to pre-burn it. Set it in the sun. Yes, I do, Valerie. I know it's in that playlist. It's a video. I did that video a while ago. I'll probably have to add it into the end screen for this video. Actually, so yeah, I think I named it paper firewall. Yeah, paper firewall. I didn't name it newspaper. 'Cause you can do it with paper that's not per se newspaper. Like I'm talking about flyers, maybe. It just has to be not glossy and not wax paper. That does not work. But basically, I'll explain it again. Basically, you wet the paper, and then you roll it up really, really tight. So it's like a roll like this. And you try to squeeze as much water as you can while it's still wet. And then you gotta let it dry out. And basically, after it's dried out, it'll hold that shape. And basically, now you got a paper firewall that you can submerge it into wax if you wanted it to burn longer. Use this in conjunction with like actual wood. I wouldn't heavily rely on just burning paper firewalks to keep you warm all winter, because you would need quite a bit of them. I mean, like stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks upon stacks of paper firewalks. And remember, if you're trying to like keep place, or maybe for some reason power's down, it's cold outside, your place is starting to cool down, right? Try to heat up a smaller space. Smaller spaces tend to warm up or heat up a little bit quicker than bigger spaces. So, since I talked about cold in the winter, yes, a couple of videos ago or a couple of live streams ago, I'll bring that back for this discussion. about fire, because if you're in your car, for example, it's winter, for some reason you can't get out of the situation because your engine's maybe not running, or you ran a flat, you don't have a spare tire for some reason, you didn't plan for that. Like, you should be planning for a spare tire, learn how to change a tire. Let's say you broke the axle on your car, for example, so you can't drive out, you can't change it because it's still, it's not the tire, so you don't know, you can't fix that part, the axle. And let's say your engine's still running. So basically, what you would be doing is, uh, depending on how cold, you just turn on the engine every so often. But you would be making a microclimate and trying to keep that space, the spot, the room that you're trying to heat up, as small as possible. Because the smaller the space is, it tends to heat up or stay warm a little bit easier. So let's say you had like a candle trying to, or running the engine to every 10 minutes, 15 minutes to stay warm. You try to make that space smaller. I won't go into great detail about it, but basically that's what I would do in situations like that. Try to make the space as small as possible, as comfortable as possible, of course, right? But as small as possible, so whatever you're using to heat that space, you don't need as much. So, because the bigger your heater is, yeah, you can heat up a bigger space, but you're gonna use up more electricity or fuel, something like that. I'm not a big expert on that. I know I'll send you guys over to what's it called? There's Mike Hilton prepping and survival. He's done a video on like different kind of woods. Now he lives down more south than I do, and I don't know where everyone lives in the world or what you have access to. I mean, for me around here, it's, let's see, spruce, pine, poplar, occasional apple tree here and there. So I'm not an expert on that team. So I know Mike Hilton has a video of that. So if you wanna message him, I know he would answer you. He, go to his channel. I know he would answer you, especially if you said, that you were talking to me about it for a little bit. Just tell him that I sent you by. Because I remember he has a video on that. It's been a while, so, and I do not have the link right now, or else I would put it in the description. I mean, in the chat right now. Because he kind of talks about the characteristics of the wood. He's well more knowledgeable about it than I am. I'm not an expert on, per se, wood. Hope that helps you out, D. So, I know I was talking about, what's it called, matches earlier. I mean, like I said, there's a whole bunch of matches, from paper matches, normal type of kitchen stick matches, strike anywhere type of matches, which basically have that little white piece on the top. Because traditional matches, that would be on the box. That's what you strike to kind of, get it all going and get that reaction going so you get that flame on the match. And of course, stormproof or electrical matches, but they need a striker with them. Now, if you use matches, or you put matches in a kit, you have matches in a kit, Altoids, a tin, that kind of stuff. Always remember, if you have matches, always have more than one striker. So, for example, oh look, I guess I have the Stormproof matches. I still have the box, right? I keep all these match boxes, by the way, just because, well, I use matches. But if you don't have matches, make sure you have more than one striker. And like the second striker, let's say you want to keep one just for quick use on the top of a tin, like, it's on the top. Well, let's pretend this is the inside. That's on the top of the lid. For quick use. Yeah, that's fine. But make sure you have a secondary one that's sealed, like in a baggie, or you can use a wrapper or whatever and seal it. Use an iron and just seal it so moisture can't get in or water can't get in. So just in case your tin, pouch, bag gets soaked with rain, it falls in the river, lake, or whatever, you still have at least one striker that's gonna be dry. Assuming that your matches are, maybe waterproofed or in straws or something like that. Alright, Dean. Alright, that's cool, So yeah, I keep a whole bunch of match strikers. Actually, a friend kind of gave me, a good friend of mine kind of gave me a whole bunch of kind of used match, like paper match striker, yeah, used match strikers and stuff like that, which I have a bunch of. So depending on the kit, I add them in, use them for the matches I have for those kits. Never have enough of those, especially if you have matches in the kit. I'll put my baggie of match strikers away. Jeez. Break out something else here. Now, I'm very well known for solar. Yeah, very well known. I've done solar ignition, I've tried out lots of different things. I've shown very small to super big lenses for solar ignition, which are actually big enough to like cook with. Because if you haven't seen my solar tag video, feel free to check that out. It's unrestricted, so anyone can check it out. It's basically an open tag video to show off your solar ignition, things that can be used for solar thermal energy and solar power. I, recommend anyone that likes solar, feel free to do VR if you want. But in my fire chest, I also keep, stuff like this. Let's see. This is a piece of plastic, kind of a plastic. This came from like I was at a yard sale or a grad sale, and I was trying to buy some solar lights. The solar lights didn't work. Like the solar panels are like gone. But when I realized that these were sitting at the bottom, like this would be what would be showing, and basically it was just there. So, and then I figured, oh hey, there's I can use for solar ignition, and so even though the solar power didn't work on it, I got solar ignition, so I kept those around. Lenses like these that we're all familiar with, the magnifying lenses or glasses. Here's the speaker that I've shown. Yes. See how it's kind of parabolic or concave in shape? Yeah. I use this for solar ignition. Tried it at least once. Oh, here's another can. This is from one of those kind of torque cans. It's a little bit bigger than the other one. So let's see. So here's the big one right here. It's bigger than the other one. So more, there's more air surface area, so it'll gather up light a little bit easier. Because in terms of solar ignition, the more light you can gather up, the easier it's gonna be. Because you're just focusing more light into a single point or into a focal point. Whereas for solar ignition, you're focusing light into a single point because you're trying to bend that light. Like everyone knows that light goes in straight lines, but stuff like reflectors that are bent or concave or something like water can bend light, and if you can bend the light into more of a point, that point will start to heat up because the solar thermal energy gathers into that spot, and basically you start getting that, well, solar ignition, and next thing you know, it starts to smoke, and eventually, you're gonna get a fire going from that. So, any of you guys out there ever try out solar ignition? Maybe you tried out a magnifying glass as a kid or something like that. I guess it would help if I spelled solar ignition right. Oops. Typo. My bad. I was never an expert at solar ignition, but I just kind of through school, well, science classes and learning about it and kind of understanding it, I got a better sense of doing it now. Now I see things, I'm like, hey, I can use that for solar ignition, and I've shown a lot of different things that can be used for solar ignition, even things that you won't see on their channels, because as far as I know, I'm like the only one that's ever shown a wok using a wok for solar ignition. Yeah, I used a wok to kind of start burning something. So you just need something kind of either reflective, like a reflector. So basically, like a bowl or a concave parabolic type of shape, or a lens that can bend light either through ridges or because it's curved. So if it was this, it'd be curved on one side. Well, that's cool, eh? Yeah, that's cool that you at least tried it out. I just kind of got back into doing it again. With my fascination with solar, I mean, here's a lens right here. It's graciously donated by Sammy, by the way. So I know Val knows Sammy is, yeah. She donated, well, gifted me this. And basically, usually lenses like these, and this is not applied to bigger lenses and smaller lenses that are roughly the same. there's two sides to these lenses. A smooth side, and then the other side that has ridges. And you can hear that? The ridge side, which is going to be facing towards you guys right now, has to face towards the light source. So, for the most part, towards the sun. So, for example, let's see. Of course now I can't get the right camera angle. Like, you know, you kind of get the idea. I don't have the right camera angle. But you guys get the idea. Because if you do it the other way, it might still work, but you're not getting as tight of a focus. Because the ridges will bend the light first, and then the smooth side kind of lets that through. So you want the light to bend first, and then let it through. So, for example, just using my lamp that I have as an as an analogy for the sun. Of course, these lenses have more than one use. Can be used for first aid type of reasons if you want to see a splinter or maybe a closer look at something. Can be used for like with a flashlight or whatever, kind of to magnify light. So if you have like a really small flashlight, you can kind of extend the beam a little to a certain degree, similar to like a lighthouse. So you can kind of get that lighthouse effect. And I've also shown that in the video. It's useful. Not everyone has like a really strong flashlight that goes super far. So, I guess I'll talk about sparks for a little bit, since I've been talking about heat sources for a little bit and solar for a little bit. So this is a ferro rod. It's a mixed metal, has some iron, magnesium, traces of some other metals inside. Like basically what happens is you take something that's kind of harder than this, usually has like a 90 degree of some sort on it. So let's say I'll use a hacksaw blade for example. It has a 90 degree spine that I've sharpened up. And basically, when you apply pressure, slight angle, and then because of the speed that you're going at and the pressure, you're removing some of the material off of the ferro rod in this case. It's not get shot out, mixed, join with the oxygen in the air and start burning. Of course, now it doesn't want to spark, right? Yeah, see. Oh. Remember, when you play with fire, be careful. Just saying. Because if anyone's wondering, I'll kind of release this info right now. There's a reason why these fire kit videos, some of these fire videos that I have are restricted. It's because I've seen a lot of videos and seen from some YouTube channels, their kids are playing with fire and, all you hear is, they're starting a fire in the fire and, they put a smoldering amber in, the garbage bin. Stuff like that. Or, forest fires and stuff like that. Fire is dangerous. As much as it's useful, it can, it can kind of bite you in the butt if you're not careful with it. It can burn you. I've gotten burns from fire before too. It's very painful, especially gooey type of fires like with like sap or with tape. I mean, I've gotten first degree burns from it. It's painful. And I want to welcome everyone. The Peeping Egg, welcome to my live stream. The Peeping Egg. How's it going? I kind of feel a little bit more excited that Peeping Egg drops in. Not sure why. Must be the name. Thanks for dropping by, The Peeping Egg. I've just been talking about fire this kind of whole stream, live stream, for a while. You know, talking about flame, spark, heat, tinder making tools, the fire triangle, fuel, oxygen, and heat. You know, standard type of info that you might hear in like in terms of fire safety. You know, you remove any one of those things from the fire triangle, it'll collapse. The fire will kind of dissipate. I mean, sometimes a lot of fires, like oil spills and stuff like that, are very extremely hard to put out, even with water and CO2, carbon dioxide, from like a fire extinguisher or that foam stuff that sometimes they use for chemical spills and stuff like that, chemical fires. Oh, that's sweet. That's awesome, peeping. I guess that's why you're so excited. I really gotta stop with the puns with peeping egg, but it's so much fun doing them. I can't stop. You know, I I guess I'm gonna be talking about the solar first before I can. But in terms of solar ignition, I've as far as I know, if it can be wind resistant to a certain degree, especially the larger the lens is or the brighter the sun is. Because I mean, I was trying stuff down on a highway just randomly and be like, yeah, you can actually get something to smoke in a vehicle going down highway speeds as long as it's bright out. You might have to kind of cover it a little, but it's possible. So, as far as I know, solar ignition, you know, it can be wind resistant or windproof to a certain degree. However, it's not as, let's say, during the wintertime, it's just not as bright, so it might be weaker just because it's not as bright. And of course, for me, solar ignition's the hardest. I mean, aside from when it's dark or raining out, solar ignition is gonna be hard like an hour after sunrise and an hour before sunset, just because it's so low on the horizon of the sun. You're getting so minimal amount of sun that unless you got like a big lens, a big glass, a big reflector, you're probably not gonna get the solar ignition in time. Like it would take an hour, but because it's an hour before sunset, by the time you have enough time to get it, the sun's already, gone, and you're just getting in twilight. Just reading what you guys wrote off the side here, so don't mind me. Now, people, sometimes I know, sometimes it depends what you're burning. What I found is I know with sparks you try to fluff it up like a cotton ball, but in terms of solar, I try to compress it, and if need be, let's say it's let's say what do I have in front of me here? Oh, okay. I'll just use this. Clearly, I'm not burning this or whatever, but I would try to compress it down, right? And then try to get a coal going and try to blow it into flame if need be. That's how I would do it. Maybe block a little bit of wind if need be. Because if it's bright enough, sometimes you don't even need to block the wind just because it'll start smoking right away. I mean, I've tried out solar ignition from 8 o'clock in the morning. One of the latest times I've ever tried solar ignition is like 4 to 8, but that was during the summer. And basically, there's like shade everywhere. That's where I got this one sunny spot because it's in between the trees. I was out camping, and stuff like that. I was just, you know, practicing and stuff like that. Of course, my friend just walks down, just comes into the campsite because he just got in. Doesn't even tell me. He's like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" I'm like, "How long have you been standing there since you started?" I'm like, "Oh, was it cool?" He's like, "Yeah, okay." Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that peeping A. I like charpunk wood. I really do like charpunk wood as it's one of those things that I found that, charpunk wood can work with even weaker sparks from like a dead lighter. It's possible. And of course, it's gonna take an open flame, sparks from a hotter sparks from a ferro rod, and of course, it's gonna work with solar ignition just because it's black. Because in terms of solar ignition, I know I see a lot of videos where it maybe not struggling, but it's taking longer than expected. Where, if you have access to something dark with you nearby, let's say, of course, now I don't have one next to me. Oh, here we go. So, if you have like a dark pen, maybe a black sharpie, access to like dirt, if you add that in, because it's black absorbs heat faster. So you're gonna be that heat is gonna get absorbed from like using a pad of paper here. That dot, if I applied solar ignition, well, of course if it was daylight out, but if I applied solar ignition to that dot, if I put it over here, it'll take longer, but as soon as I come to that dark spot, it'll heat up faster because it absorbs the solar thermal energy faster, right? You know, we all learned that dark stuff absorbs heat faster, lighter stuff tends to reflect heat and light more. Oh, in terms of charcoal peeping egg, basically you just probably just need enough so it vents that extra gas out. Because basically what's not happening is the carbon's not get left over, like the coal, right? That you're trying to char, but everything else gets vaporized. And basically it needs somewhere to go. As long as you have one hole, it's good enough. And a lot of people say that an Altoids tin is, you don't even have to make a hole because the gaps on the back, on the hinges. So, but if you're using like a more like a puzzle tin, for example, or a sealed type of tin, or maybe something like this, yeah, you definitely need a hole. At least one. It doesn't have to be big. Just enough so the gases can vent away Oh, that's great. That's great. You guys are talking on side chat here, getting along great. That's what I like to see. Puts a smile on my face when you guys are enjoying each other's company and exchanging ideas or info or sharing knowledge or experience or well, all that stuff. Thanks, peeping, eh? Thanks for dropping by. I always appreciate you dropping by. You've definitely been supportive, not only on the live streams, but even before I started to do the live streams, you know, my basic static videos, which I probably should be making more static videos again. I might be over live streaming. Can you over live stream? Maybe. I haven't tried the fire roll yet. I think it's because I'm trying to do it without using preset like a 2x4. I've been trying to do it without a preset 2x4. Because in the real world, you might not have that. You might just have standard logs or whatever that you're batoning down. So I'm gonna try that first because if I can do that, then I know in the real world I can do it again. Because I don't want to heavily rely on some 2x4 because I did it with a 2x4 and I can't do it with a normal piece of wood that I just baton down. That's flat. But that's just me. What's up, Alex? Thanks for dropping by once again. I know it's cold out here. It's 35 in the wind tonight. Brrr. Might be cold, but it's sure warm on this live stream because I'm talking about fire and flame spark heat, solar ignition, lighters, hot sparks, tinder making tools. Did I mention solar? Oh yeah, I did. More puns from the peeping egg. I swear I'll never stop the puns with the peeping egg. It's just I just can't stop it. It's just too exciting. Yeah, more puns for me. Can't stop those, right? Yeah, Alex, it's cold out. Thank goodness I got gear to help me out. And if need be, I can whip out a winter jacket if need be. But I haven't brought out my winter jacket yet. I think I only bring it out until -30 anyways. Because usually I can get by with just layers until like -20, 25. Then after -30, then I might consider wearing a winter jacket. But I'm Canadian. It's in my blood. But I do get cold easily, so if I gotta wear something, I'll wear something. I don't care. I'd rather be warm, or at least warmish or lukewarm, because you don't want to be too hot, because then you start sweating, and that's all bad. Well, I definitely gotta try that out. The fire roll again, peeping egg. I mean, I was sort of trying it out. I mean, I can get it where it's like really warm, but when I kind of exposed it or kind of let go, it wasn't, and it, teased it, it wasn't smoking. So I wasn't quite there yet, but it felt pretty warm to hot to the touch, but not quite hot enough yet. I don't need one either. I'll accept times because I got something else. I got my winter torso, which I have actually updated, and I'll show later on in a different video again, hopefully. Like I said, I have to try that out. It's because I kind of want to. I don't want to be relying on certain little things for friction fire, like because the less you can do with the less resources you use with the friction fire, or the less kind of man-made or technology you use, such as I know skateboard wheels are common for like bow drills and something like that. I don't want to heavily rely on it. I mean, I don't mind learning with it, but I don't want to. I want to learn to see if I can do without it too. So using natural materials as much as I can. Because in the real world, if you're relying on friction fire, you're not gonna have that stuff. Because if you did, you would have brought a lighter. You would have brought a ferrite, sparks, a way to generate sparks, a detonator, or whatever. Or if it's sending out using solar ignition. Speaking of which, I'm just gonna check the temperature right here real quick here. Yep, it's still cold out. Yeah, it's still -35 in the wind. It's probably gonna feel like, what, maybe closer to -40, maybe even by morning, pretty close to a couple hours before sunrise. So within the next 4 hours, probably the wind chill's probably gonna drop. I mean, go down more, unless the wind dies down. So yeah, that'll be nice, I guess. Just reading what you guys wrote. Like I always said, how can you not like fat wood? That's with a K, by the way. Just saying. I know I say it all the time, but seriously, how can you not like fat wood? And for anyone that doesn't know what fat wood is basically what happens is as the pine tree, more specifically, but as the pine tree develops and grows, that kind of sap or resin gets drawn towards the middle, and then when it dies, it's still there, and basically that resin or sap becomes, well, it's flammable, and it hardens into the wood. So basically, let's see, I should have an example. Of course, now I don't have an example of that wood here. No, okay. Here's a very, very, very small piece of fat wood right here. You'll see. Basically, when you heat it up or whatever, it'll start to ooze out, and that's where you're seeing the resin or the sap from when it was alive, stuff like that. And basically, a pine tree uses sap to kind of like heal itself up, or bandage itself up. So when you first see it, you'll see colors like cherry red, maybe bright golden colors, until you can tell it's fat wood. And when you kind of scratch a little or run a knife over it, smell it, you'll smell that kind of big pine smell. Like it's very noticeable. And then when you burn it, for example, it catches sparks or flame fairly easily for what it is, and that all fat wood will create a black smoke. That's the only kind of downside of fat wood, I guess. But if you're just using it to start a fire, let's say I'm using this to start, some bigger sticks, a little bit of black smoke's probably not that matter so much. And of course, fat wood's available in a lot of places. Not all places, but in a lot of places. Yes, smells like turpentine. Yes, yes, thank you, Pink. I was trying to remember that name. For some reason, it's not. I wasn't remembering it. Oh, peeping in, you gotta make that video for sure. I wouldn't mind seeing that. That'd be awesome to see. More fat wood. Like I'm all for fat wood, but I kind of don't like seeing let's just say one person taking all the fat wood. Try to share. And of course, I'm not a big fan of, you know, I don't want to cut down a pine tree just for fat wood. No. And besides, the bigger the tree is, generally the more fat wood's gonna be at the end anyway. So, I mean, a tree that's 1,000 years old, a pine tree 1,000 years old, will probably have, a ton of fat wood. You just gotta wait. So yeah, when I get fat wood, I don't kill a tree just for fat wood. Or, cut a limb off or whatever just for some fat wood. I rather let the pine tree appreciate and value some more. And the fat wood will always be there. I mean, if it's a storm that blows down the tree, I mean, it's happened here. Trees get blown down. Yeah. Unfortunately, the tree's gone now, right? It's not gonna come back. Unfortunately, it's not gonna keep growing. So, yeah, I'll harvest the fat wood then. But I'm not gonna cut down the tree just for fat wood. Oh yeah, you're right, peeping in. Usually, the stronger the smell, kind of more, you know, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Accelerants, or resins in the fat wood, I guess. So, yeah, stronger the smell, you know, it'll probably be easier to catch a flame or a spark, especially if you process it like my dust or feather sticks or something like that. Well, I guess if you're tripping over stumps, yeah, excuse to do something. Hey, peeping, since you have all this kind of fat wood, have you ever considered making stuff with it? Like, maybe those ferro rod handles with fat wood, or making a striker. or something like that. Because I've been considering it. I just don't have the right pieces here, or a long enough piece of fat wood. But, you know, hopefully one of these days I'll have a nice piece again. I'll have to wait. Oh wow, you made Christmas and Christmas ornament pre-ping egg? I didn't even know that. I didn't even know there. And did you release a video on that? Because I don't remember your video showing a fat wood ornament. Or maybe I was tired and I forgot, but I don't remember it. And I tend to remember this kind of stuff from people. I mean, if it was fat wood, I should have remembered it. You know. Hey, Texas Gold Stars back. Welcome back. Thanks for dropping back in. Always appreciate it. So, like I will say in every stream, feel free to sub to each other, check each other's content out, and if you do sub, check out the content as well. Support other people's channels by not only subbing, check out the content, leave a comment, even if it's just a very basic comment. You know, try to share videos on your social media, Facebook, Instagram, I mean, you know, all that stuff. Happy New Year to you too, HYN. Alright, that's what I say all the time now. Takes too long to type Happy New Year nowadays. Oh yeah, you got newer videos out peeping in? Oh, that's cool. I'll remember to try to check one out after the live stream. Geez, I didn't realize I was talking about fire for the last 2 hours. But, you know, I guess when you're on a hot topic, it just keeps going on and on. And of course, with peeping in, dropping in, well, it's always exciting. Yeah, those were bad puns. Let's see, 28 Fahrenheit, that should be about like minus 4 or 5 Celsius, plus 9 Fahrenheit should be about, I think it's about minus 15 Celsius, give or take. Don't quote me on that. I've been trying to know these conversions. All you American people from the US, I gotta learn Fahrenheit in inches. But I guess I'll know. Yeah, Dean, that's the normal temperature for around where I live normally for this time of year. Is those temperatures. What we're expecting right now is way below freezing. I mean, way way below seasonal or normal. We're expecting a warming trend, but not till after the weekend. So until then, it's gonna be a cold weekend. And I just remember, it's TGIF. It's Friday. Woo woo. Thank you, Peeping Egg. Thanks for the conversion help right there. I'm trying to remember it. I know in the videos I try to kind of mention it so no one has to jump on the converter or Google it. Alright, I'll just say it. But I don't remember it all. Maybe I should work back into it and try to dig it back out. So, I guess I'll show off some more lenses. Yeah, here's a lens that I got from. I think this came from. I'm trying to remember now. It either came from binoculars, a camcorder, or a rear projection TV. One of the three. I know sometimes I'll find them, or my friends have them, or I'll search on the classifieds and they'll be free. Like I remember picking up a rear projection TV for free. I didn't want it for the TV because I didn't care, but I did grab it for the lens. So, which is sitting out in the garage right now. I've shown it off in the open solar tech video. It's only 65 inches. Yes, I have a 65 inch 65 inch magnification lens, which I've used to make solar char cloth. I tend to try to make my char cloth with solar if I can. I'm not one of those people that I'm just gonna make a fire just to make char cloth, or use your kind of camping stove, propane stove to make char cloth. I mean, I guess it's okay to show how to make it, but if you're just gonna be making it on and on like that, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of doing that. I'd rather make it in the sun, or make it in with a fire that's already established, like a campfire or whatever. Like when I go camping, I tend to bring my char tin with me all the time. I'm charring up something, denim, punkwood. Because charcoal is usually considered as like next fire mentality for the next fire or something like that. So I don't want to create fire just to create the next fire if I can. If the fire's already there, that's fine. But I rather use the sun, because then that way the only resource I'm using is the material that I'm trying to char. I'm not using additional wood, propane, a barbecue, wax, fire starter, or whatever to make the char cloth. Wow, that's a big temperature difference there, Dean. 60 degrees Fahrenheit, that's like, what, 14, 15 Celsius? Because I know that 10 degrees Celsius is 50 Fahrenheit. I'm starting to learn some of the common conversions. 32 Fahrenheit is 0, minus 40 is minus 40. Well, thanks, Dean. Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about the lenses. Yeah, that's actually the reasoning. Well, one of the reasons why I have them. They're so I can, use solar if I can. They're for solar ignition. I can use it for harness solar thermal energy for cooking. I've done it before with those lenses. Now I have to adjust them every 15 minutes, but still cool. And Peeping Egg makes me want to get more coffee. I should have brought my thermos into the room. I guess I'll go get it in a little bit again. Have more coffee with coffee. Well, have more coffee with honey and milk. Yeah, Dean, I got so many lenses. Like all my all my bags now. Have, well, pretty close to all my kits. Most of them, let's say a good 80-90% of them, give or take, have some form of solar ignition inside. Because like I said, I tend to try to have a flame spark heat method. And as if I'm gonna make a fire kit or have fire in the setup, pouch, tin, or bag, I tend to try to have those some a little bit of tinder and some way to make tinder, whether it be a knife, pencil sharpener. Like a knife, pencil sharpener, you're gonna be able to make tinder, or at least make more surface area so you can, you know, get somewhere with the fire. Oh yeah, I remember that, Dean. All right, all right. I'll catch you later, D. Thanks for dropping by this hot live stream with that. I'm talking about fire and related stuff. I'll catch you later, Dean. Thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it. Have a good night, Dean. Sleep well. Stay warm. Enjoy the TGIF. I really should get more coffee. It feels like I could talk about fire for like an hour, 2 hours still. I guess since I'm talking about fire, I guess I'll talk a little bit more here. Let's see here. So, I guess peeping, I'll ask you, and if anyone else wants to answer the same question, well, feel free. Uh, have you ever started a fire peeping? I know peeping. I know you started fires with fire things, but have you ever started a fire with a dead lighter before? I'm just asking, just curious. I know you started fires with hot sparks from ferro rods, solar, and clearly you used an open flame. But I was just curious. Have you ever started a fire with like a dead lighter? Yeah. Leave it up to me to ask someone a question, then they go get coffee. At this rate, I might as well go go get my thermos and get some more coffee myself. I guess I could. I guess I could go grab coffee real quick here. Oh, thanks, peeping for answering. I'll wait till you come back and I'll kind of finish what I'm talking about so you don't miss anything I'm talking about. At this rate, I might start needing some people on the panel to talk to, so when I go get coffee, you know, there's still someone here to talk to. So, oh, what? Okay, peeping, I'm just gonna go grab some coffee here. You'll know when I come back because I will be back on video. In the meantime, I will put on my CR logo while I'm temporarily gone. I should only be gone for about 190 seconds as soon as I leave and open the door. So I will return in just a moment here because I'm gonna need some more coffee because The peeping egg makes me want to have more coffee. And did I mention the peeping egg makes me want to have more coffee? So I gotta get some more. Because I feel like I can talk a little bit more. Alright, guys, I am back. Just pouring my coffee here. As you can hear, I'm pouring the coffee. I already put the milk and the honey inside, so I'm good to go. I'm back on camera here so you guys can see me. Put the channel back up so I can see everyone. What everyone's talking about. Yeah, keep rocking the free world. Exactly, Alexander. Exactly. Woo. So let's see what everyone wrote. Let's see. Oh, the peeping egg said, well, in the lighter there's a piece of flint. So that makes sense, yeah. Well, you do want to try it. You're just not quite sure how to go about it. I mean, for me, I kind of said it a little bit earlier ago. If you can take a dead lighter and start a fire with just sparks, no flame, because maybe, maybe the fuel's gone, or it's too cold, or for some reason you broke the lighter, the bottom of the lighter, and all the butanes escaped, and for some reason this is what you have. Because if you can start a fire with sparks like this, hot sparks from Fairrod should be, 10 times easier, depending on the tinder. But basically, the tinder has to be quite fine or refined for a dead lighter. So something like, a con ball, flipped up con pad, dryer lint, jute twine. But somehow I don't have one in front of me right now. Yeah, I don't have the jute twine in front of me. I thought I had the jute twine in front of me. Of course, I probably should have planned that better, but yeah, flipped up jute twine. Cattail works, but it's kind of more of a flash tinder. Like you'll get a flame, but it's very very quick. So you gotta have feather sticks or maybe like birch bark to catch that flame, because you're not gonna get a really long flame from it in terms of time or duration. Oh no, it's clearly not as hot. I mean, it probably ranges probably around the same as flint and steel, but flint and steel is, well, I mean, later, you know, it's continuous. Flint and steel, you would have to keep going at it. I mean, I've never used flint and steel, so I won't totally say it's right, but as far as I see it. I guess we're all well depends on this hot live stream about fire. So yeah, like I've gone a lighter, a dead lighter like this to light up that wood before, but usually it's kind of more like Maya dust or really fine shavings of fat wood, and you need enough of it to kind of get it going. And the fat wood, it will go, but it's not gonna be as fast as like a cotton ball. Like for a cotton ball will take a spark like that, like super easy. Usually on the first strike, first light, first set of sparks. Usually you're gonna get it within like 5 seconds. You know, just kind of aim and go at it. Things like with a lighter, for example, peeping egg, you can actually, if let's we'll use this pencil sharpener for example. This was like con, for example, right? Or something similar. Maybe it's fat wood. You kind of go backwards on it, and basically little flakes of the flint will fall off. Like there's no difference between the flint. Now that's just a name. Like basically it's like a miniature ferro rod inside. But because of the surface area and because it's smaller, the sparks are smaller and it's not as hot. Like basically you go back like this, try to get it over, you know, the con ball or whatever. Then you do this a few times and you go back normally to get the spark. It might help catch the spark just a little bit easier. So instead of doing this for the next, you know, 5 minutes, a couple of times like this, then going like this, might, you know, you might get it within the first 10 seconds. You know, depending on the tinder that you're using. Obviously, some tinder is better than ours. So I hope that kind of explains it to you, peeping egg. I mean, there's kind of kind of things you can do with like toilet paper to refine it to take a spark. I've done that before. I know toilet paper can take a spark actually quite easily, especially if you refine it. It's not too difficult. I'll probably show that in a different video on how to, if you to light up like toilet paper, tissue, Kleenex, paper towel, you know, stuff similar to that, napkin. But generally, that's probably gonna be for like survival related reasons. Good to know, but I probably, you know, I'm not probably not that I always have toilet paper when I come in, so to speak. Of course, the famous Vaseline cotton ball, like which many consider as, you know, the ultimate kind of DIY fire starter. I mean, it's very popular. There's many videos, variations on kind of how to make it. I've tried it. I know it works, but sometimes Vaseline cotton ball, sometimes you oversaturate the cotton ball. It can be a little bit messy to mess around with Vaseline or petroleum jelly. Because unless you try to get Vaseline or petroleum jelly out of certain things, you don't know how hard it is to get it out. Even with soap, even with dish soap. I mean, sometimes it's still, even with hot water, it still can be difficult to get it off. Even off like your skin or whatever, you get some on your hands, you gotta wash your hands for like a good minute. using hot water and soap, maybe some baking soda just as more of a abrasive, just so you kind of can get it off of you. Because the thing about petroleum jelly that I don't like is not only is it messy, I mean it's cheap, which is good, although the tubes that you get aren't that big in comparison to some other stuff you can be using like wax or whatever. And sometimes when you messing around with a petroleum jelly cotton ball, if you're trying to use your ferro rod, you might be getting some like, let's say you get pull out your ferro rod, you've been messing around with the cotton ball, your hands might be gooey a little, so when you're striking, you might be getting like, if I'm going like this, I might get some petroleum jelly on the rod, and what'll happen, it'll coat it, and because it's coated with something, it'll tend to slide off more, so I'm not getting that friction, because it reduces the friction on it, so I'm not getting the friction, and without the friction, I'm not gonna get that spark. So, but I mean, it does work. It can work, but mm, there's other things that can work. Oh, that's cool, Alex. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that story. Yeah. See, Vaseline is another thing. It's man-made. You cannot naturally kind of make it or have it with you. Unlike something like that would. I mean, or birch bark. I know cotton is a natural material. It does grow. Unfortunately, it doesn't grow around here. I've never tried like something like cattail with Vaseline. Might work. I haven't tried that, so I don't know. Everything's that are similar to cattail that might work are like dandelion fluff, but you gotta pick up enough dandelions to do that, and that's seasonal too. You're not gonna get that during late fall or during the winter, and even in the spring you gotta wait a little bit before it starts to want to spread its white seeds around. I mean, everyone has their favorite fire starters, you know, whether it be DIY, homemade ones, or commercially bought ones, which are, there's a lot out there. I just won't go into specific examples, but there's a lot out there. You can go on to their channels, they talk about the commercial fire starters. I mean, it's all great and all. Some of them are, outstanding. Then there's some other ones that are like, nah, I would just use the Vaseline cotton balls, for example, or like a wax fire starter. Because at the end of the day, you just want the fire to happen. And remember, fire starters are one of those things that are it's a kind of it's a consumable thing. So once you consume it, that's it. It's done. There's no going back or whatever. So spend my money on, you know, maybe food, water, and then just another fire starter that I'm just gonna use up within 5 minutes of receiving it or whatever. I mean, fatwood's cool just because it kind of it's kind of recoverable. I wouldn't quite call it renewable because it takes some time for fatwood to develop. Well, naturally, anyways. I mean, I've heard about people making kind of man-made, or I wouldn't really call it synthetic fatwood, but well, I'll just call it man-made fatwood. But a lot of people think it's not quite the same. I haven't made anything like that, so I'm not quite sure. So don't take my word for it. Do your own research, try it for yourself, and see it for yourself. But if you can get natural fatwood, well, you know, why do you need to per se make it? Oh, I like fatwood too. I mean, how can you not like fatwood? Just kidding. I mean, I just consider it just like anything else. It's just another Tinder source for me to use. Another card in the deck that I can pull out. Another Joker in the deck I can pull out, for example, if I can use that as an analogy. I mean, these fatwood parties, I don't have any qualms about it. The only thing is, if you don't have a large supply of fatwood, you know, or you only have a limited supply, or you can't really supply it fast enough, you probably shouldn't be kind of wasting or burning it unnecessarily. Because you won't have it for when you really do need it. I mean, let's say you had a pound of fatwood, or for example, you know, you should be spreading that out among fire kits and backpacks, kits, tins that you have. Any extra, yeah, you can burn a little. And even if you do want to burn it, if you're trying to start a fire, you know, use only as much as necessary for that situation. You know, for example, like I stick like this, depending on the situation, you know, the time of year, how wet it is outside. I mean, something like this might be able to make 2 or 3 fires. In harsher conditions, wetter conditions, I might have to use a full stick of this size. But I mean, see, especially from you peeping at it, I've seen fatwood that's like as big as like my wrist. I mean, something like that should be able to make like 5, 6, 7 fires with, especially if you kind of process it and make feather stage or Maya dust. No, I'm all for practicing, but remember, depending on how much you have the resource, you can only practice so much. I mean, I'm all for practicing, but you should also set a little bit back for when you do need it the most. Like if you don't practice with it, I mean, try it in adverse conditions, not always when it's nice and sunny and clear out and it's plus 20, 70 degrees Fahrenheit out. Try it when it's colder out. Try it with wet hands. Try it with cold hands. Stuff like that. Try to light it without a ferro rod or a lighter. You know, Stuff like that. That's awesome, peeping egg. Very well said. Well, I'm glad you, peeping egg, and Alex is having fun here. That's awesome. Jeez, I should be sipping more on my coffee a little bit more. Just checking on the forecast. Just checking on the local conditions right now. At least the wind's dying down slightly. Only feels like minus 33 out. Or minus 28 in Fahrenheit. For you guys that live in the US. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Peeping a, don't waste it if you don't have a lot of it. I mean, no specific examples, but I mean, if you gotta per se import it in or buy it, I mean, you probably shouldn't be wasting too much of it. I mean, I'm all for practicing, learning how to use it, but after a certain period of time, you done enough practicing. You can use it, and you can use a little bit to get a fire started, for example. Yeah, me too. Peeping in, kicking, and coffee's kicking back in. I feel the rush of coffee. So, cheers to that. Cheers, peeping egg. Oh, I can't believe how long I've had this mug for. It's probably older than some of my subscribers. That's how old it is. It's one of the oldest mugs I have. I've had it for so long. I got it back when a place was closing down. Long, 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 long time ago. You know. That's awesome. I'm hoping to get into geocaching, but it's a little bit different in some parts of the world because in terms of geocaching, you gotta watch for ice, let alone like anyone trying to dig it up or finding it. But I mean, ice is probably a big issue because if anyone doesn't know, water when it freezes, it expands. That's why ice floats on top of water. So when it expands, it pushes out. So anything in the way will, it'll apply a lot of pressure or force to it. That's why, you set a glass bottle of water in a freezer, it'll break the glass. That's how much force there is in that. So, like, if I was geocaching or whatever, I mean, like, water gets around it, it might actually expand and push inward and break the container or crack the container, which could, affect the contents of whatever I'm geocaching. So, and of course, stuff like depending where you put it, there might be development on that land or a place where you put it, so it might change the next time you come by. Stuff like that, where be like, hey, there wasn't a farm here 5 years ago when I geocached there. Well, the world changes, right? There could be new whatever out there at that time. 5 years later, so of course you gotta check your geocaches every so often and stuff like that. But that'll be for another video, geocaching, because I'm not an expert in it because I haven't done it yet. I'm hoping to. Someday. I'm old enough, peeping egg. We'll just say that. I'm old enough. I'm old enough to learn from school, learn from the real world, experience it for myself. I gotta deal with it. Such as winter here in Canada, I gotta deal with it all every season. Every 9 months. I gotta come back into it again. So I feel like I'm kind of drifting off the topic of fire, talking about geocaching and stuff like that. I guess that was kind of Tinder, so I guess kind of sort of staying on topic, but I guess um. So peeping at you told me that you kind of been playing around with like charcloth or charpunk, what you said? I know I've made a bunch of charcloth in my time now, quite a bit actually. I mean, whether it be a campfire or in the sun with solar thermal energy. I mean, I've even made just for kicks, just to see. I made charcloth with even just some of my kind of hot candles I have, like this one right here. It's specifically this one, but one similar to this. One of my hot candles I made charcoal with just to see how long it would take. Took a little bit, because clearly the hotter the fire, or the more the bigger the focal point in terms of solar thermal energy, the quicker you're gonna be able to make that charcoal or char material like punkwood or denim or stuff like that. It's okay, peeping A. I mean, you know, I recommend just trying it for yourself and seeing how it works for you, and seeing it for yourself with your own eyes, with your own two hands, you know, kind of smells the smells, touch the touches, listen to it and stuff like that. Sense it for yourself. But it, I've been able to, you know, get char punk wood to light with a dead lighter. Sometimes I can do it with charcloth. Like clearly, it's not take an open flame or a hot sparks from a ferro rod. And of course, because it's black, it's not work with solar ignition quite easily. Like with charcloth, or even, well, one thing I do like about char punk wood, because it tends to stay together, and if you need to, you can kind of crumble it a little. So let's say you're trying to get a fire started or whatever, you can crumble it a little into your bird's nest and or your tinder bundle that you're trying to get sparks into or whatever, to kind of help it along, to because the little flakes of charpunk wood that you have would be sitting at the top and might be able to catch the spark better, especially if your tinder bundles or bird's nest that you're trying to shower sparks into isn't the greatest, or isn't processed or refined the best. I have both actually. Peeping egg. I have both charcoal. Um, Usually it's jeans. I've tried a t-shirt, but I find it kind of doesn't stay together as easily. like, because it might catch the spark better, but it doesn't stay there. So when you're kind of handling it, it might kind of crumble apart on you, so to speak. That's why I kind of like denim or punkwood more. And generally, I would prefer punk punkwood just because it's a natural material. Punkwood will come back, and you can find it almost anywhere. Almost anywhere. There's always certain parts in the world that probably won't have punkwood, like the desert, in the Arctic, and anywhere that's there's no trees. Cool, 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 cool. So yeah, I mean I got both. Actually, my fire chest right beside me here. I have a larger tin where I just and it says char on it. Or no, it actually says char tin on it. It's a bigger tin, and within that I have smaller tins, stuff like that, where I keep stuff that I can char, and I can keep char cloth and char punkwood for whatever reason. Because it actually is quite useful. It can be useful, char, especially something uh, like let's say if this was a piece of char punkwood, for example, right? Yeah, I know it burns. Yeah, that's given. But you can also kind of write with it if need be. You know, if you need to write something real quick or whatever, like on a piece of wood or whatever. You know, help or I went this way north or whatever, right? And if you have, maybe you have access to like the sun with solar thermal energy with solar ignition, you can kind of write that help on your on the wood and burn it in, kind of engrave it into the wood. I've shown that off before too. It's quite useful. So it kind of those woods would stay around a little bit longer, even if it rains. It takes quite a bit of time for it to wear down, because I've tried it out. Like over at my friend's place, I wrote fire stick on a push stick, and it's been sitting in their fire kind of pit outside all season for rain, snow, freeze and thaw cycles, and I can still make out it says fire stick. It's starting to fade now, but I mean that was like it's been let's see, it's January now. It's been about 5 months, so it's long enough, anyways. Yeah, I mean, I've heard people talking that genes don't catch a spark as easily, but you know, try it out for yourself and see. If I, make up your own conclusions. Don't trust what I say or what another channel says. Run your own tests, your own experiments, right? Draw out your own conclusions for your own area. There might be slight differences in humidity in the area too, right? Um, my area, it's not really known for humidity, but maybe your area, maybe it's more humid, or something like char punkwood or char cloth might react or do slightly different, or when you use it, it might uh, go about its thing differently. So try it for yourself. Draw your own conclusions, not just based on what everyone else says. I kind of figured that would come in conversation eventually here. I remember Alex. Actually, it was last year, back in February, give or take. That's just out with friends, ice fishing. We were kind of like, kind of Swiss Family Robinson kind of thinking. We just kind of did things. We made, we just kind of made our situation even better. Even though, we had access to solar, solar energy for lighting, lighting and stuff like that at nighttime, with solar lights, a stove for heat, to cook on, boil water, make hot water heaters. I mean, hell, we even had a restroom. Hell, we even had like a moat. We even built a snow wall. That was awesome. But that was just fun. We were, but of course we were out in the middle of the lake, so there's only so much resources. No access to really trees unless I went inland to go get them. Which I'm surprised I didn't do that. Oh yeah, because there was so much snow around. There wasn't much in the way of trees. So I guess I'll show off a few additional fire stuff that I've been working on. One thing, actually, I will talk about it. If you guys might have heard well, not terms, but survival candle. There might be other things that's known as a buddy burner. I've known it as a buddy burner. Uh, well, a buddy burner usually is made from like corrugated cardboard and wax. I don't know if you guys ever heard about that, but I've tried that before, and I've actually made them. Don't I just I not it was cool when I first started, right? Yeah, cool. It's winter. It's -30 out. Yeah, I can stay a little bit warmer, right? Yeah, it works for the first, second time. But what I find with buddy burners, in my opinion, from using it, after the third or fourth time of using it, it becomes harder and harder to light it, even with a fire starter or with an open flame. Like you might be able to kind of get it kind of going with a fire starter, but after the fire starter's gone, it might go out. That's why I'm not a big fan of it. Is because if it was this container, right, corrugated cardboard, wax, right, it's tightly rolled around, right. What happens is the wax will settle to the bottom, obviously, right, but cardboard, the cardboard might not be good enough to kind of wick the wax high enough to kind of keep the flames going or keep that fire going. So that's why I'm not a big fan of them. I tend to prefer what I call hot candles more. Like I've shown hot candles with punk wood. Punk wood actually makes a pretty good hot candle, just because punk wood is very absorbent. Like when you lift up a piece of punk wood, it's kind of spongy when you touch it. Because of that spongy characteristic, it'll absorb something like wax quite easily. I have a video on that. If anyone wants to check that out, it's in the playlist. Dang, peeping at you gotta send me some of that heat down to me. I wouldn't mind that wrap up now. Although if we averaged out the temperature, it'd probably still be below freezing. I'm assuming the math would work out. It would still be low freezing, but at least it'd be warmer. so, so yeah, I've only actually. I guess I actually do have one left over buddy burner that I have. There it is right here. I made this a while ago. I wish I didn't actually waste the wax for this because it's not that great. But it'll kind of prove my point here. Jeez. See, another thing I don't like about it is... Jeez. If I can get it out here. Come on! This is a buddy burner. You can see the corrugated, you might be able to see it in this, but you can see the corrugated cardboard. I burned this twice now. Now I can't even, I could take a lighter to this and try it and hold it upside down. It still wouldn't go. Whereas something like some of my hot candles, you know, even after 4th or 5th, 6th time of burning it, as long as there's still fuel, so to speak, like wax, it can still kind of go. So I figure, you know, let's say if it's fresh, a buddy burner works. Second time, still good, but you know, after 4th, 5th time of using it on and off, you know, it's too difficult, especially the taller it is. Like this, most of the wax is probably like down here now, but it's really dry at the top. So unless I add more wax in, you know, it's kind of not gonna be the same as the first time. Whereas like a hot candle, some of the hot candles I have, some of them I've lit for like the 20th time. As long as there's the wax, you know, it'll still go. And similar to the buddy burner, the hot candles that I usually make, I can still add fuel, like, you know, wax, melt wax into it. So, for example here, let's see, since I do have one next to me here. Of course, now I can't find it when I need to show it. Go figure. Here's an example of like kind of more of a hot candle for me. Pretty much like wax with cotton. You know, something fluffy. Wax for, you know, as an accelerant or as a fuel to keep the flames going. I mean, like something like this. I can light it once. Let's say it goes for 4 hours in total. I can light this once for an hour, put it out, light it again for an hour, put it out. You know, kind of just be as easy to burn as the first time. If this was a punk wood version, you know, I'd light it up with a flame, like a lighter, for example, or maybe use a fire starter if need be, like a little piece of cotton just to kind of get a flame so it'll kind of go, but it'll kind of keep going for me. I just find hot candles a little bit more reliable in the long run, time after time, versus a buddy burner. Alright, Alex, thanks for dropping by, man. I'll catch you later, man. Good night. Keep warm. It's gonna be cold for a little bit again, probably, eh? So peeping egg, since you're the only one really leaving on the side chat here, I don't know. You must have heard buddy burners before. You must have heard something like that, or something similar to that. I know there's channels that's shown them and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I've made one, but I just have my own. I drew out my own conclusions about it over time. Yeah, well, you might say you miss it now, but you know, once it becomes like minus 20 Fahrenheit, 22 Fahrenheit out, you'd be like, maybe I don't miss it as much as I think. Oh, so you have heard about it. I see, I see, I see. Yeah, I mean, like, I heard about it, and I tried it out myself. Then, I started to draw my own conclusions about it after using it for a bit, run my own tests. I just don't find it that great, especially over time. And of course, cardboard is one of those you need. They specifically say you need corrugated cardboard, and I'm not a big fan of using. Well, let's just say I would recycle the cardboard and burn it. So I kind of went trying to figure out other things that can wake up the wax, right? And then that's where these hot candles came into play, and now I just kind of stick with hot candles. A lot of my kids seem to have hot candles instead now. I know some people still have buddy burners, but I just I just find that, especially if they're bigger, it's just too hard for them to light at certain times, especially after fourth or fifth time. I've I don't think I've ever had troubles with hot candles, at least the ones I make. And if I do, I use a little bit of a fire starter, maybe like a little piece of a con ball, for example, just to get a flame going, and I'm getting flames. As long as there's still wax to fuel it, for example, it will keep going. I'm not familiar. I mean, I know a lot of channels, so I won't specifically say any specific video or channel because I'm not sure. I might have seen it, but might not have. Oh, you should see some of the hot candles I made. I know. I told my friend about it. He made a version with punkwood. I eventually you're gonna have to resupply the wax into it eventually, right? But he was burning they were burning it for like hours and hours. It just I mean, in terms of the larger the wick is, the larger the flame's gonna be. And the larger the flame's gonna be, the more heat's gonna be liberated out. But because you're liberating that heat or burning it faster, you're gonna go through the fuel faster. And that actually happens in the real world too. And some other stuff I won't get into, but I know of. So that's why it makes sense to me. Alright, since people are taking a short BRB, I guess I will be, I have a hot candle right here that I'm working on, and so that's why it's red. Um, just a tin that I picked up from the dollar store that I'm using it with it. It's not ready yet because I don't have the fuel in here yet, but you know, here's another one that I've been working on. This one has fuel inside of it. Yeah, I burned this one a few times. I remember one time I did actually use, when I was trying this out, it may vary to height, clearly, right? But I had I had this one right here, burning, you know, almost a foot. Like, I could almost stand above it and keep warm. That's how warm it was. Now, in terms of fire, the smaller it is, or the smaller the wick is, in terms of diameter, the less heat you're gonna get out at any given second. But clearly, it's gonna last longer. Hence, some of those kind of like a candle, that's why it lasts so long, because the wick is so narrow. But if the wick is wider, you're gonna get a lot more heat output. Yeah, you're gonna get a lot more heat output. It's gonna feel a lot hotter. Feel a lot warmer next to it. You don't have to be as close. Feel it from like some distance away. The flames might be wider or taller, but it's gonna use up that fuel a little bit faster. And like I said, in the real world that it actually exists, like in outer space, it's the same thing that applies to like to the sun and to the stars out there. It's the same thing. Is it you're releasing more heat or energy in this case? You're gonna go through that supply of fuel faster. So yeah, depending. That's why I like these kind of hot candles more, because I can kind of be like, how much of a wick do I want, or how much do I want to burn at any given time. I can slow it down, make the wicks slightly narrower if I need to, or make it wider. Depending on the situation. So yeah, I make quite a bit of these hot candles all the time. I mean, I got quite a bit of them. Like I said, it gets cold here in winter, so I have these just in case. I bring one when I go out camping every so often, and usually it's July. It's for a weekend. Maybe 2 to 5 days, give or take. I bring it just because it's convenient. I mean, like, if I need that quick source of heat, I got it. I need some light, quick light, I got it. It's raining outside, and I want to just kind of mix a pot of coffee or whatever. I got it. In conjunction with like maybe a propane stove or whatever that we might have with us. Depends what's going on. Or maybe I'll put it over a hot plate, keep my coffee warm, for example. Speak of coffee, I think I'm gonna have another sip here. Welcome back, peeping. Thank you for coming back so fast. Yeah, it's not too hard. You just kind of have like any wick, you just kind of have to let it sit there and kind of until it solidifies against the wax. I have another one, but it's deep down in my fire chest right now, so I'm not gonna get it out. And I have that video to show what's about and how to make it. It's not that hard. Anyone can do it. When you're looking for, I was about to say how. When you're looking for punk wood, you kind of want to find ones that are really light for inside. Like, the lighter, probably the better, and kind of feel spongy, because that sponginess will allow it to absorb the wax a little bit faster. So it's not act like wood. And depending how wide will determine how much heat you get, or how much height of a flame you get. So hope that helps you out, peeping egg. Like, I got a few pieces of punk wood sitting in here right now, but they're at the bottom, so I'm not gonna bring them out. They're sitting way at the bottom of the container, so I'm not gonna bring them out. They're way at the bottom with the wax and stuff like that. Oh, you're quite welcome, peeping egg. Anytime, anytime, anytime. Like I said, I'm no expert. I'm just that guy that creates, you know, runs his own tests, learns from his own mistakes, tries to make progress, not always trying to perfect everything. Because progress will lead to perfection over time. So yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of fire stuff I haven't even shown yet, even in this video or the live stream. Just another tip of the iceberg. Just the top of the candle. There's a lot more I haven't shown. So I am gonna be. I'm hoping to run a fatwood type of test. I've been considering it. I'm running the same test that I ran their fire starter versus videos with. Same test. And of course draw out my own conclusion. I mean, I still like fatwood, but I want to see it in these tests, in the misting test, in the soak stick test, in when it's actually raining with nothing covering it, um, sitting on top of snow and stuff like that. So that way I can compare it and be like, okay, in this situation, this XYZ was better, but in this situation, ABC was better. And kind of draw my own conclusions for my own area with what I currently have, versus what I made and stuff like that. It's something to gauge the fire starter with. I mean, isn't what's it called? Something to compare it to. Like a baseline, and be like, okay, the fatwood did great in this, but maybe it didn't go so well in this. Or oh, my DIY fire starter was okay in this, but it did great in this, for example. Not saying it is like that, but hypothetically speaking. I mean, when you wrote, I keep forgetting. I mean, like, there's plenty of other stuff that can start a fire. I mean, alcohol, like from like hand sanitizer. I mean, if you get a first aid kit with hand sanitizer, I mean, like, if you're cold, you need a fire, you're doing whatever you gotta do, right? Especially if you're already starting to feel cold, you're already shivering, maybe you lost a glove, your hands feels frost nip, you're starting to feel the beginning effects of frostbite. I mean, that's probably the time before it starts getting worse, where it starts changing color and stuff like that, and trying to avoid getting black hands from frostbite, because you're pretty, once you get black on your hands like that, you're probably not gonna come back from that in terms of your hand. So yeah, I've a lot of these. I mean, right now in this one, I got. Let me double check here. I think I got like 6 or 7 con pads in this right now, and these are the larger con pads. So I mean, one of these con pads can go for about like it depend. It always depends. Your fire starters, the amount of time can vary depending how much you expose or how much is exposed. Because the more it's exposed to the air, the more oxygen it's gonna draw in, and it's gonna burn hotter. But it's also gonna liberate that heat even more than if it's really hidden or whatever. Like that's why sometimes uh, fires will die out. Is because it's so far down, it's not getting enough air, so it's not burning as hot. But let's say this could once I finish it, it might go for let's say 30 minutes, give or take. But I might be getting a flame that's like as wide as the tin and maybe about like 3 or 4 inches high. Now with and again with these fire starters, there's also there's different stages of the fire starter when you're burning it. You, in the beginning, it's gonna start off small. It's gonna build up to its peak, burn that for quite a bit of time, and then it's gonna drop off as the fuel level goes down, as there's less and less to burn. And then it'll hit rock bottom where it's just coal, barely a flame, maybe like you know 1/64th of an inch millimeter of a flame, and pretty much then it's done. So at that peak, like maybe within like 1 or 2 minutes in after it starts burning, you're probably gonna get the highest amount of heat you're gonna get out of from the fire starter. And that might go for, let's say, if the fire starter lasts for like 10 minutes, that might go for the peak amount of heat might be about, let's say, 6 minutes. 6 minutes. So 2 minutes to start, 6 minutes of high amount of heat or maximum amount of heat. Then let's say another 2 minutes where it's like, you know, falling, minimal amount of heat, minimal amount of flame, just because the fuel source is going away. Because it's only gonna go so long, and you're only gonna get so much heat from any fire starter, regardless if it's man-made or natural. Well, like I said in the cold and winter live stream, frost nip is basically the top surface of your skin. So if you think about like in terms of getting burned, it'd be like similar to getting a first degree burn where it's just the surface of the skin. Frostbite is where the tissue, tendons, muscles start getting cold and start freezing. So similar to like a second or third degree burn. If that makes sense. Because I know people know about first and second degree burns, but sometimes some people don't understand about you know, the effects of the cold, on the opposite side of the spectrum. Oh yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly. Peeping in, you know, you're not used to it, right? You kind of feel like you get blindsided. I know for me, I I'll go out when it's colder out, just kind of get more used to it, because also it's gonna be around for a little bit. Because I mean, I know I kind of said it in the cold winter live stream, but I'll say it again. Anything on the planet, plant or animal, sea life or on land, there are um, organisms, let's say like bacteria and stuff like that, smaller organisms, one cell and stuff like that. Some can handle extremely high temperature. I'm talking about above boiling point, like in let's say Yellowstone, for example, those springs. There's actually organisms in there that survive in those temperatures. Now, there's also organisms that can survive in extreme cold with very like there's no sunlight that hits it because it's in a cave, right? But you bring them in and switch them, they will die because they are not used to it. They can't adapt to it fast enough. And we're just like that too. I mean, if it gets super cold, then it gets super hot, and it gets super cold again. I mean, your body's gonna have a hard time trying to get used to it, or I think what's the word, acclimate to it. So you know, everyone goes through that. That's why during like people think it's cold, like let's say for example it's 0 degrees 32 Fahrenheit out. Early in the season, let's say October or September, you'll be like, oh, it feels really cold out, right? But in the spring, at the same temperature, you'll be like, oh, it's so warm out. It's because you've gone what you've been used to. You've been used to the summer, so feeling that temperature of 0 or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it's gonna feel cooler. So you'll be like, ooh, it's kind of cold, it's kind of chilly out, right? Then in the spring, when you're feeling that again, right? Oh, since you've been out in the cold for so long, being used to, minus 20 or whatever it is, right? High windshield, something like that, you'll be like, oh, it's so nice out, it's nice and sunny out, and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, like, if you start, one of the first signs of kind of, well, feeling cold in terms of like on that road to long, harsh road of hypothermia, which is basically when your core temperature falls below a certain point, and hyperthermia means going above your core body temperature to a certain point, so overheating. But of course, we're talking about winter right now, so hypothermia, below your threshold for your body. Some people have a higher threshold for cold or heat, and some people have a lower threshold. But, it varies. Oh yeah, you're totally right. You know, it's it's good to experience different environments, things we're not really used to, show our weakness and try to, balance it out where, we're getting more used to it, so, maybe we're not as vulnerable. I mean, I get cold easily too. I do. I know I do. But I also remember I'm trying to keep in mind certain things, keep your hands moving, keep your toes moving, you know, if you're feeling cold, move around a little bit more and stuff like that. I mean, it's great to have fire during the winter to keep you warm, but sometimes depending on what you're doing or whenever or you're at work, well, clearly you can't per se have a fire, and you can only go inside so much, so you gotta keep moving. Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool peeping. I'm glad you kind of can rationalize it, I guess, for lack of a better word. Yeah, because I hear it all the time, right? I'll be like, no, it's because you're used to a certain temperature, so when it's warmer or colder, it's not feel well warmer or colder. It's what you're used to. So I guess since I'm talking about fire still, I guess I could show this off. I can't. Well, I showed showing this off a while ago in the different live stream on how they do this. Not that hard. You can go check out that live stream. And basically, I kind of took one of those badge clips, that are retractable or whatever. What? Look, I got a lighter leash. Yeah, I made a lighter leash from a badge clip kind of thing. So a little bit of cordage, stuff like that, and voila. Isn't that awesome? So, I figured I'd share that because I decided not to. I didn't want to share it in just a video for like a 10-second video. Yes, exactly right. You know, trying to keep in composure. What's that called? Oh yeah, the the fight or flight response. Right? You fight or you flee. Right? Trying to keep it together. You know, you got yourself into it. You can still get yourself out of it. I mean, I'm not sure how far you had to go for your trip or whatever, and how long, and how cold it was, and how cold you felt, but, you know, I've done trips where I'm like, yeah, that was cold. You know, where, yeah, I know that's frostbite. That's not frost nip, because it feels like my muscles frozen or something like that. Yeah, so I can relate. When I was just like, trying to keep it moving, thinking on my feet, well, keeping my, a little head about it, uh, and thinking, exactly, not freaking out, and remembering, you know, it's okay if I gotta do this now, it's cold enough, I can justify it, or if it's hot out, I can justify doing this or that. Peeping ink. Let's just say I've had my fair share of experiences. Not with a coyote, but with dogs. Yeah, I've gotten bitten by a dog. I've gotten bitten by a dog that can outweigh almost anyone I know. That's how heavy it was. I was lucky. I was very, very lucky on that. Yeah, I still have that mark from that. And it's been 2 years, and I still have a mark. Let's just say it's getting smaller and smaller, and less pink. And my natural skin tone's coming back in that area. So yeah, I was very, very lucky indeed. Because, a little bit over, could it, hit a major artery, stuff like that. But yeah, long story short, yeah, I made it. But it wasn't the most pleasant of things. It was very annoying, especially trying to take a shower. trying, because I need it to heal, so I'm trying not to get it wet, but I also need to take a shower, so. Thanks, peeping, and yeah, it's cool when your natural skin color comes back. A sign that you're actually healing, like from cuts, bruises, whatever it is. I mean, I cut myself on my finger right here. I mean, like in a couple of videos, you see me wearing a bandage on that side, or band-aid on that side. I mean, it took a little bit. I had to kind of suffer through it for a little bit. But, less painful now. My natural skin color is coming back, but it's not fully healed. But it's healed enough that I don't need to wear a band-aid or a bandage anymore, which is good. At first I was worried that I cut my tendon, but I'm able to move the finger all up and down, so no major damage, but it hasn't fully healed, so I'm not quite sure yet. So, but as far as I know, I'm not no permanent damage. But let's just say I am not doing that one thing again because it was definitely not worth the hassle in the long run. Oh, anyways, so I'm gonna get back to on topic here. I'm drifting off topic about fire. So I'm gonna show off a couple more kind of, you know, fire stuff, related stuff. I don't know about you peeping in, but or anyone else that's watching, but I like to keep stuff like wicks, con string that could be used as a wick. Like I keep a container in this. Basically, it's got a whole bunch of wicks, usually from candles and stuff like that. For some reason, it smells like fatwood. I'm not sure why. Oh, I think it's because I had fatwood inside of this before, so yeah, kind of smells like fatwood, but there's no fatwood inside. It's just a bunch of wicks. Maybe from candles or whatever. Stick candles I'm using for as a fire starter. To melt down as for another fire starter or for another hot candle. So I tend to keep the wicks. So, because wicks like these can be, depending on how long they are, they can be, let's say, wrapped around like a lighter, for example. Well, here's one right here. If this was longer, I can wrap it around, kind of melt it in so it stays there. Use it as a flame extender. I mean, like, if I lit this up right now, it'd be a flame extender. Start my fire with that, for example. And of course, if I'm making another candle or a wider candle, I'll use these. As I'm not a big fan of those stick candles. Thanks, peeping. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of stick candles. I'm not a big fan of stick candles. They're okay for survival related purposes, like if you're out in the woods. But in terms of, let's say, bugging in, for example, grid down, power outages, winter storms, stuff like that, I'm not a big fan of them because because really, to be honest, if I find the lid here, if this was a stick candle, we all know about these stick candles, dinner candles. They're red, white, stuff like that. You see them at restaurants and stuff like that. What you usually see with them is a holder. If you don't have a holder, yeah, you can kind of try to improvise something like a can or whatever, but it may not be ideal. And the other thing is, because it's so tall, the center of gravity is so much higher that it's easy to for them to get knocked over. Like if this was a stick candle, look how easy it is to knock it over. Like look, and I'm barely pushing on it and it's tipping just because it's so tall. I generally prefer, I'll use this spool for example, short but wide candles like tea light candles, because this is harder to knock over, right? If this was a candle burner, kids, pets running into them, something like this, it's not gonna tip as easily. Okay, tip there, but you know what I mean, right? So, in terms of like if you're bugging it or power goes out, grid's down for some reason, I rather use wider candles that can stand on their own, harder to tip over, and stuff like that. And that's why I'm not a big fan of stick candles. I tend to use the stick candles, I break them and use them as a fire starter. Use their wax to either make a wider candle or make a fire starter, you know, whatever, or a hot candle. So, if anyone's been wondering why I don't like stick candles, that's why I don't like stick candles. I mean, I'll buy them for the wax if it's cheap or whatever, but I don't tend to use them. I rather use tea light candles or those 30-hour or 50-hour or 80-hour candles instead, because usually they're wider and they'll you put them on the surface, they're not going anywhere. Even if you bump the table, it's not just gonna be like fall over. Because another reason is if that stick candle falls over, fire hazard right there. If it was grid down, blackout, you're bugging in, that's the last thing you need in that type of situation. Is a fire hazard like that. Like it's bad enough that we gotta use candles in that situation, but you don't want to make things worse by having a fire hazard of that. So, I mean, I've shown in a different video, like if you have one of those metal tins, maybe a wide bowl or something. If you're having to light candles for lighting for whatever reason, grid down, you're bugging in, stuff like that, winter storm, powers out, and stuff like that. I tend to say if you're gonna light up candles, try to not use stick candles, and if you're using like tea lights or one of those wide 30-50 hour candles, stick them into water. That way there's no way if it gets tipped, you have a chance that the water might put it out. I would have a little bit of water on the ground versus there's wax over the place, or oh crap, there's flame going, guys, and it's on the table and it's not the candle, because you don't want to be saying anything like that. And if you put it in a tin, for example, because of the metal, like for example, if it was this, you get that reflection, so it'll reflect some of that light. And during the winter, it's probably gonna be cold inside because you probably won't have access to heat, or it'll start cooling down in your place, for example, because grid's down, you might natural gas might not be working or whatever the reason. That water, because the candle is so close to the water, that water will start warming up a little and kind of absorb some of that heat and just slowly radiate it out. So stuff like that. Oh, that's cool. That's cool peeping, eh? Yeah. Yeah, so you kind of get my drift about it. Why I know, in my opinion, why I don't like them. I'm not a big fan of them. Just simply because it just feels like it's too dangerous. I mean, if you're out in the woods, yeah, it's fine. But like I said, if you're bugging in or grid down or blackout, yeah, I won't use them. I just think it's way too dangerous, especially if you don't have a candle holder. Like I wouldn't even use I wouldn't even attempt to use them without a candle holder. Like, I know people say, oh, you can like melt a little and stick it down, right? Yeah, you might be able to, but it might still tip over just because it's so tall. Alright, peeping A. Thanks for dropping by. I think I'll probably end this live stream because it's been going on. Oh, jeez, coming out to 4 hours here. Yeah. Thanks for dropping by, peeping A. I appreciate your support on the channel and popping by, my stag videos and coming in on these live streams. I appreciate it. Keeps me company. Learn from each other, know each other a little bit more, and such and such. And enjoy your day, peeping A. TGIF, TGIF, TGIF. Yeah. I'll catch you later, peeping A. I guess I'll probably end this live stream in a few minutes here, anyways. Then. Of course, peeping A. You're always watching. You're always welcome on my live streams. Hence, I made you a moderator. Always an excellent time with you. Yeah, I know, I had to throw in another one. So yeah, I guess I'll be closing the show here in a few minutes here. Unless randomly someone else wants to jump in or whatever. Yeah, I guess it's probably the slowest part of the day. So, I want to thank everyone that's dropped by on this. Oops, sorry. I want to thank everyone that's dropped by on this live stream. Thanks for dropping by and checking out my content. Where I, in this live stream where I kind of talk about fire mostly, flame, spark, heat, having Tinder, and having tools to make Tinder or process Tinder, such as a knife, which is basically a wedge that's really sharp, and something as common as or as simple to use as a pencil sharpener. And the thing about pencil sharpeners is that as long as you have two hands, almost anyone can use it. Kids know how to use a pencil sharpener. I mean, if you were out, you got a bug out, camping or whatever, you might not give your child or kid a really sharp knife, like this Victorinox that I have, right? You'd be like, yeah, it's too dangerous, they're not ready for that yet. But they still want to help you make the fire burn or whatever, get them using a pencil sharpener. This is pretty much, foolproof. Anyone can use it. The chance of getting hurt with this is probably next to zero. As with a knife, the chance of getting hurt might be much more in comparison to a pencil sharpener. These are relatively cheap. Metal ones will definitely last longer. They're not that break like the plastic ones. And something like a carpenter pencil sharpener allows you to have more. Well, it's bigger, so you can fit a bigger stick inside. So something like this. So basically, yeah, like I said, it's a bigger ones that have two sharper holes might be better. So depending on the stick you have. And if you're making pencil sharpener shavings for a head and advance, you can use something like a drill or whatever. You know, connect this to a drill. Turn the drill, and just be like zoom, zoom, right? Let that stuff dry out. It'll be ready to go when you need it. I know I keep a bag or two lying around if I'm planning to go out, especially in the winter, and I'm not be making a fire for sure. Then there might be more scares. I might not find any, so I'll bring some in, especially if if I'm planning to cook, boil some water or something like that. Just give me one moment. I'm just checking up on something. Okay. So, anyways, I want to thank everyone that's been dropping by and stuff like that. I know traditionally I would probably age restrict the fire stuff, but I kind of, well, I'm not demoing and explaining it a little bit more to give you the knowledge to consider things ahead in advance. But you guys gotta go out there and try it for yourself. Test it for yourself. Try out those fire starters for yourself. Know how they work. Know how long they can kind of go for. You know, and just basically just go out there and do it. Do it like me. Try it for yourself. Try it in adverse conditions. You know, stuff like that. Try to make fire sticks. You know, I'm no expert in friction fire, but I tried it out at least a few times. I've gotten smoke. Never gotten a coal pile yet when I'm working on it. You know, with solar, I mean, like, I've tried out solar, but, you know, I know some people out there haven't tried out solar. So if you want to go out there and try out solar for yourself. In terms of a heat method, solar is definitely easier to try to do before friction fire, but clearly solar is only available during the day and when it's sunny. Oh, and it's got to be bright enough. So I guess I'm gonna end this live stream here. So, as the world changes, so must oneself. To reach a new level of skill and knowledge, one must practice. Now, a single person can't help everyone in this world. But one person, like you, me, and anyone else that's watching, can help someone in this world. Alright guys, until the next video from me, it's peace out from the guy that's always in creation mode, learning, trying stuff for himself, understanding it, trying to rationalize it and all that stuff. It's peace out from the guy with the C and R in it. Peace out guys from Creative Redundancy. Till the next live stream, in the next video. Later.